Jungle Cruise. So Jungle Cruise surrounds a scientist named Lily Houghton, played by Emily Blunt, and a boat captain named Frank, played by Dwayne Johnson. Lily is on the hunt for a flower that's said to change modern medicine, and she's going to utilize it to help the world, and she enlists the helps of Frank in the rivers of Brazil. I thought this was a great movie. There's very little not to enjoy. Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt were absolutely phenomenal on screen. Their characters were really impressive. The scenes were fun when they needed to be. They were a little bit more somber and serious when they needed to be. The movie was very self-aware, and I appreciated this movie on a very high level. And best of all, the movie did a good job of getting me even more invested into these characters as it went on. Let's start with what I loved about this movie. First off, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt were absolutely superb. Their characters were designed to be experts in their field, and they did a good job of making it very believable that they were experts in their field. In order to be a boat captain, in order to be a scientist, you have to have clever, you have to have wit, you've got to be charismatic, you have to have some ingenuity to you, and they both sold that to a T. The writing enabled it so that these characters would make you believe that they were possessive of these traits, and then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Emily Blunt, their performances bolstered that dialogue, and it really elevated it to its fullest potential and really showcasing what makes them special. So good on Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt for that. Also, this movie had some really strong characters in it, mainly in the form of Frank and Lily, but also in a couple of other characters as well. Lily and her brother McGregor are a very high moral fiber. They're very charismatic people, or at least I would say Lily's a bit more charismatic of the two. Frank is more of a really complex trickster whose motivations change throughout the movie, and you get to learn a lot about. He knows his way out of a lot of situations, which is really cool to see play out. Kind of going back on the writing piece a little bit, this movie does a really good job of exposing to us more about these characters. It's how the motivations change throughout the movie, what makes these characters special. It utilizes a really clever technique I like to call finding the meaning in the mundane. It takes the most in-between moments in the movie, like if they're on a long boat ride, and it really takes those moments to produce some really interesting dialogue between characters and really gets you invested even more into them and how much they really care for each other. It kept the pace of the movie really consistent without bogging it down while still having great character exposition. Also, the humor. Given the trailer, I thought that the movie was going to have some humor in it. I thought it was going to be really, really cheesy. However, the movie actually does a really good job of making you laugh. I laughed quite a few times. Granted, a lot of the humor in this movie does come in the form of puns, but the movie is very self-aware of that, and it really helped in its execution that it didn't take itself too seriously on its humor in that regard. It just totally helped in the delivery and made it even funnier. And lastly, the adventure elements in this movie. That's essentially what this movie is an adventure movie. There's quite a few fight scenes in this. There's quite a few action scenes. There's some really intense situations that go on with the boat. People are chasing each other, and it makes for a really fun ride throughout the movie, and you really feel like you're on an adventure with these people, which is what Disney tends to be good at. What did I not really enjoy about this movie? One thing I didn't really enjoy was the villains. You could make a case that there was probably one too many antagonists in this film, and because of that, it makes the threats that Frank and Lily face a little bit diluted. There is one villain in particular that is very complex and very interesting, but other than that, I just didn't really care about the other antagonists. Another thing is I didn't quite buy into everything that this movie was telling me, mainly in the form of Lily and her brother McGregor being able to fight. You can even see in the trailer there's a scene where Lily punches Frank in the face and Frank says, "Good form," and the movie never really answers how Lily and her brother McGregor learned to fight, even though they fight so much and they fight aptly in this movie. Granted, they're both scientists, but the fact of the matter is, how do they get so good with their fists? How do they get so good at getting out of some of these situations? And how do they know how to wield weapons? It's just it's something that the movie doesn't quite answer. It wasn't a huge deal. Another thing I thought this movie was lacking in was the fact that the adventure got a little complex at times. It's just, I didn't quite grasp everything that the movie told me about their quest. I mean, it could have just been I was tired as shit when I went and watched this movie, but they would give you really quickly, like in just one or two lines, it just didn't quite relay. It wasn't enough time for me to really digest the information, absorb it, and be able to apply it to the movie. And it got to the point where I actually stopped kind of caring about the adventure, and I cared more about the characters as the movie went on. Not only that, but I think there were a couple of unanswered questions by the time the movie ended. However, my friends, final verdict. This movie is an 8 out of 10. It is a great, fun Disney adventure movie that is suitable for just about everybody. There's excellent characters, writing, acting, and adventure elements. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Emily Blunt were very, very good on screen. Their performances brought the best out of already good dialogue. Their chemistry was impeccable. The humor and adventure elements were really entertaining throughout Although there are one too many villains and some questions did go unanswered, it didn't compromise my overall experience. Go see it. This movie is great. It's fun for the whole family and you won't be disappointed. All right, my friends, have you seen Jungle Cruise? If so, what'd you think of it? You know where the comment section is. Let me know. Thanks so much for watching another Bankrupt Hippo movie review. Like, comment, and subscribe to get in on videos like these and join in on the fun. Once again, this has been the Bankrupt Hippo YouTube channel. I've been Bryce, and until next time, have a great day.